we're about to get into some earnings that we had this week. And then at the end of this video, we're going to get into the 10K challenge, man. How the portfolio looking right now. So we're going to get into some of these earnings, well, there were more than five companies that did earnings this week. But these are kind of the five that I was looking at, besides Netflix and so far that I already talked about. But we're going to be paying attention to these five today. We'll have their numbers up. As you can see right here, we already have Tesla up. So we'll talk about a little bit about, the big numbers that people usually pay attention to, revenue, EPS, all of that kind of stuff. And then, if they had some interesting things go on, we'll talk about any highlights from the earnings. And then we'll get into the 10K challenge and see how that count is looking. So let's get into it, man. The first company is Tesla. First company is Tesla, and they here's the thing with Tesla. They had a lot of misses, as you can see. The estimates for the revenue 27.2 billion. They came in under 25.7 billion. EPS, they came in under 2 cents at 73 cents. Operating income came in under at 1.58 billion. Gross margin came in under 16.3%. Free cash flow was good though. Free cash flow increased and it beat estimates at 2.03 billion. But here's the thing with Tesla, because you would take these earnings at face value and say, okay, maybe the stock price will come down. But no, not with Tesla. I think the market is starting to realize that Tesla is not just a car company. Tesla is indeed a tech company. Tesla is indeed a tech company. And I think that now that Elon Musk, he just has his hands in so much, and now that he's involved in politics and he's next to Trump and all of these things, it's like Elon is almost too big to fail right now. So regardless of these misses, the stock still ran up. The stock still ran up, and I was confused. I was scratching my head because I'm like, okay, I seen the earnings, looking at them in real time. I'm like, okay, maybe we'll get some pullback, but no, stocks ran up. Now, what are some things that Elon talked about during the earnings call? I have the Qatar app pulled up, which I've told you guys a lot about. So we'll look at those and we'll kind of look at, some different things he talked about. Now, as far as Tesla goes, I'm pretty sure you already know that, they have a new Model Y coming out. The new Model Y is, I think it's out already in different markets. It'll be available over here in the US, I believe, in March, maybe. But you have a new Model Y coming out. He spoke about Optimus, and he's very, optimistic about Optimus and its performance and how much money and revenue it'll generate. And also, he announced that autonomous vehicles, specifically the robo taxi, will be getting deployed in Austin, Texas. I think he said in June. So autonomous vehicles are on the way. It is no longer a next year or a year after that thing. It's coming this year. We'll be getting deployed out there in Texas, the robo taxi. He's very optimistic about Optimus, and he thinks that Optimus eventually one day will have the same worth as Tesla's overall company. And the call was interesting. The call was interesting, but more so, I was more so interested in them missing and still being able to perform so well. I think Elon Musk is a rock star, and you know, just is what it is with Tesla. But one thing that I did like when I was looking at their slides, they had a cost of goods slide, and if you look at that cost of goods slide, it's looking like Tesla is becoming more and more efficient. Looking at this chart, and it kind of goes up and down. I'll kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. This is the chart right here. That red bar this is the chart for the cost of goods sold. That red bar was this last quarter. So as you can see, Tesla has been becoming more efficient. They're lowering, the cost the cost that's associated with building their vehicles. They're lowering the cost, and it's showing up. It's showing up. You see the free cash flow is up, revenue, operating income, gross margins, of course. those didn't beat. But Tesla is also investing in a lot of things right now. They're buying a lot of chips. They're investing a lot of money into the Optimus, into the autonomous vehicles, robotaxi, and all of those kind of things. So with Tesla, I'm bullish on Tesla long term. I would have liked for the price to come down so that I could, you know, start to build out a position in Tesla. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Tesla started to continue to go up. Now, I think I pretty much think that's it with Tesla. It wasn't too much big news out of this earnings really. Kind of just Elon, of course talking about some of the guidance with Optimus, Robo Taxi, and the Model Y. But things that we already know, but for the most part, Tesla's doing Tesla. Nothing too crazy. They had a lot of misses, but it's Tesla. They are an anomaly. They are an anomaly, and you never know what's gonna happen with Tesla. You never know. So let's go on to the next one, and that is Microsoft. Microsoft, as you can see, their revenue they beat 69.6 billion. Their EPS they beat $3.23 EPS. Now this is something that's lagging. Their cloud services, their commercial cloud revenue came in under 40.9 billion. Their intelligent cloud revenue came in under 25.5 billion. Cap capex 15.8 billion. So let me pull up their slides real quick. And I mean, I don't really see anything too crazy coming from them either. Cash return to shareholders, 9.7 billion in shareholders with 6.2 billion in dividends and 3.5 billion in share repurchases. So they bought back some stock, issued a lot of dividends. Their operating expenses were 16.2 billion, up 5% year over year, driven by investments in cloud engineering. Other income and expenses was 2.3 billion, driven by our share of loss from OpenAI, which is accounted for under the equity method. So of course, they're putting money into OpenAI. They're one of the OpenAI's biggest investors. And yeah, I mean, they don't really have anything too crazy going on. We heard, of course, the Project Stargate and their ties to that, through OpenAI. But Microsoft's one of those companies that they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. Just like kind of like Tesla, man. This is a great company. Revenue beat, EPS beat, but I didn't really hear anything too crazy from their earnings. Nothing really crazy to talk about. But next, Meta. Now, this is one that I was pleased with. This is one that I was pleased with. As you know, Mark Zuckerberg, was under a lot of scrutiny. He's had a lot of things going on. He's had to go and kiss the ring as far as his relationship with Donald Trump. And he's trying to turn things around. He's trying to turn things around and he's trying to position his company for future success in the AI space. And he performed well. We're looking at the revenue. He beat 48.4 billion. EPS he beat $8.02. Advertising revenue was up 46.8 billion. Family of apps and daily users, 3.35 billion people using daily users using whether it's Facebook, whether it's WhatsApp, Snapchat. 3.35 billion of users are using any one of his apps at any given time on a daily basis. Reality Labs an operating loss, 4.97 billion. So Meta did good. Meta did good. They beat their numbers. As you know, Meta, they announced a big capex spend, 60 to 65 billion, and at first the market reacted negatively to it, but we had OpenAI come out, not OpenAI, we had DeepSeek come out, and then there was the whole talks about open source language models, open source large language models, and then Meta has Llama, and they're investing big into their capex. I think it's smart. I think it's smart. Initially, their stock price dropped, but then it started to rally again. So, of course, as everybody should know, Meta's biggest revenue driver is ad revenue. As you can see, their ad revenue was 46.783 billion. And then they listed it as other 519 million, which is probably some of the revenue from some of the other apps. And then Reality Labs revenue was 1.83 billion. And their expenses as a percentage of revenue, their expenses have been going down too. So Meta's becoming more efficient. Yeah, I think that's been a trend with a lot of these companies. They're starting to trim some fat. They're starting to, utilize AI and a lot of different things, and they're trimming the fat. And these companies are becoming more efficient, and you see it showing up in some of these revenues. Net income has been increasing quarter over quarter. Q4, it's looking at these charts. Q4 is usually the biggest quarter for Meta. Well, in the last 2 years for sure. In 2023, Q4 was the biggest quarter for them as far in regards to net income. And this quarter, Q4 2024, was the biggest quarter for them in regards to net income of 20.8 billion. And then Q4 of 2023, they have 14.1 billion. So their diluted earnings per share has been increasing. Again, following that net income, it's looking like Q4 has been their biggest quarter in the last 2 years in terms of net income growth, EPS growth. This EPS for this quarter, $8.02. Q4 is 2023 EPS, $5.33. So, I mean, looking at these charts, man, looking at these charts, these guys are getting more and more efficient. These guys are generating more and more money. And that's what you want to see. That's what you want to see if you're investing in a company. You want to see a company becoming more profitable, becoming more efficient, cutting some of those expense costs. You want to see that earnings per share going up. And I mean, you're getting that with Meta. Now, over the last 4 quarters, Q4 2023, Q4 2024, 2023, 2024. If you look at it quarterly, Q4 2023 and Q4 2024, that CapEx has been rising. If you look at it 2023 to 2024, 2023 they spent on CapEx 28.1 billion, 2024 39.2 billion, and in 2025 he's talking about 60 to 65 billion. So this is a company that is indeed investing into itself for the future. He spoke about that in the call, speaking about investing heavily into AI and chips from Nvidia and infrastructure. They have a lot of things going on with their open source large language model and Llama. So Meta has a lot of good things going on. Meta has a lot of good things going on, and this is definitely a company I'm bullish on. Mark Zuckerberg is an amazing CEO, along with the other two companies we just talked about. But I think Mark Zuckerberg is positioning himself the right way. He's doing the right things, and I think Meta is on a great trajectory. Now let's look at Intel. Intel. Intel is one of those companies. We look at these numbers and they beat. Revenue 14.26 billion, adjusted earnings per share 13 cents, adjusted gross margin 42.1, adjusted operating income 1.37, product revenue 13.3 billion. Yeah, they beat, but Intel is one of those companies that they don't really have a lot going on. They dropped the ball, and they're trying to play catch up, but I think it's too far gone. It's too far gone. Intel is one of those companies that I almost didn't even check out the earnings call. I knew it wasn't going to be much coming from it. They're they're in Intel is in survival mode right now. Intel is in survival mode. I wouldn't be surprised if they got acquired, eventually in the next couple of years. Intel, I think they've gotten too far behind in the race to catch up. You have AMD that's pretty much taking their market share. They took their market share, and it's crazy because Intel used to be one of the biggest back in the day. They supplied most of the chips, and now you have Nvidia, you have AMD. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about Intel, but they did beat for what it's worth. But I don't see Intel doing much. Let me look at their Let me look at their slides one more time just to make sure. But I didn't see anything really eye catching from Intel. Nah. I mean, nah, I didn't. I don't see. I don't know about Intel, man. I don't know about Intel. They're trying to play catch up. Of course, they got a lot of money. They've been getting a lot of money from the government, but I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to recover. So we'll go on to the last company we'll talk about today before we get into the public portfolio for the 10K challenge. Apple. Apple. Tim Cook is a bad boy. Oh, one more thing I forgot. Let's take it back. Let's take it back. Meta. I don't know if you guys heard. He I think him and Trump reached some type of settlement, some type of agreement. He'll have to pay Trump $25 billion. But Zuckerberg's still doing his thing. But just wanted to throw that out there because I forgot that news came out literally right before earnings that day, and they actually put out their earnings late. They actually were late putting out their earnings. So I just remembered that happened. All right, man. So let's get into Apple. Let's get into Apple. Apple is one of those companies, that have come under scrutiny lately. I've heard a lot of people question whether Apple has done enough in regards of innovation. Has Apple kind of been stagnant? We've seen the Apple Vision Pro come out last year and that kind of flopped. But we've heard some things. We've had Apple Intelligence, which a lot of people question that as well. Do people actually use Apple Intelligence? Was that a flop? But as we see through these Q1 earnings, net sales beat 124.3 billion. Earnings per share rose $2.40. Now the iPhone net sales. This is where that question comes in. Have they been doing enough innovating? Have they been doing enough innovating? They make small changes. They'll change the camera, battery, different little minute things here and there. But overall, the iPhone has remained the same. It's one of those things that don't fix it if it isn't broke. And we see quarter after quarter, people are still willing to buy it. Now, service net sales up 26.3 billion. Greater China net sales, which is one of Apple's biggest markets, they are starting to lose ground over there. From things I've seen that there are a lot of different phones over there who are innovating. They're innovating and they're doing a lot of things. But, we've heard from Apple that they plan to, even as earlier as this year, we should have new innovation coming from the iPhone and going forward. A foldable iPhone. I've heard different things in regards to the iPad, and Apple's working. Apple's working. We see steps in the right direction with Apple Intelligence. They're working with different companies in regards to AI, and I think they're working with different companies in regards to AI, and I think Apple's going to be okay. I think Apple's going to be okay. But this net sales, this 124.3 billion, in the midst of all of this, in the midst of people asking if Tim Cook should step aside, questions in regards to Apple's innovation, will they be able to hold that top spot for much longer if we keep having, declining net sales in regards to the iPhone, not a lot of innovation in regards to the iPhone and all of that type of stuff? They're still beating the odds. They're still beating the odds. If you listen to the earnings call, they spoke about this 124.3 billion being Apple's best quarter ever, in terms of revenue, up 4% from a year ago. So even in the midst of all of this, Apple is still recording the biggest quarter ever, in regards to net sales. Their earnings per share, they're still becoming there's this company is still remaining profitable. They're still excelling, they're still driving revenues, they're still driving profits. And I think it's only a matter of time before, if they do indeed have these different innovations and things they're talking about with the iPhone, which we know people will never leave the ecosystem anyway. People won't leave the ecosystem anyway. I'm on a Mac desktop right now, iMac M4 MacBook sitting right here, two Apple mouses, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch. You know, the AirPods, the AirPod Pro Max. People are so deeply in intertwined into Apple, and the things that they offer, their products are so much a part of everybody's daily lives that I don't think Apple is one of those companies you'll ever have to worry about. I don't. And then I think in regards to AI, when you think about what company has the trust of the masses, when you're talking about America specifically, what company has the trust of the masses? What company has been at the forefront of protecting data? What company, do people already have in their homes, in their pockets, in their offices, in their home studios? It's Apple. So when you think about artificial intelligence, when you think about AI, I think it would be safe to assume that AI being deployed to the masses via the technology, Apple will have something to do with that. Apple will have something to do with that. They'll find a way. And I think Apple is one of those companies that they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. Tim Cook is a bad man. These earnings, I was impressed with. Now, we already knew the iPhone net sales had decreased. We already knew their market share in China had decreased. So I wasn't surprised with that. But the net sales, the EPS, what more can you ask for? And, I'm looking forward to the new iPhone. They're supposed to be making some version that's extremely thin and changing the profile a little bit and 120 hertz per second on the screen. A lot of different things, a lot of different rumors we're hearing, but we'll just have to wait to see. But I think the innovation's coming. And yeah, we'll just have to see from Apple. Now, let's get into the 10K challenge. Let's get into the public account. All right, man, here we are. Let's get over this real quick because this video kind of long, but not too much to talk about in regards to the public account, the 10K challenge, man. Last time I showed you the account, where were we at? Where were we at? Last time I showed you the account, we were about 34. Yeah, we're about right here. Last time I showed you the account, we were up to, yeah, it was here, 3,398.04 cents. We're up about $3,400. And as you've seen, if you pay attention, this is the first time, you know, since I started this account that we've taken a loss. That we've taken a loss. You look at the chart, we've gone up and up and up and up. And every week that I've brought it to you guys, we've gone higher and higher and higher and higher. And this is the first week where we pretty much had a losing week. This is the first week where we had a losing week. And this is the whole point of this account, so I can show you guys, especially new investors. If you've been investing for a long time, you already know how the game go. But if you're a new investor, this shows you that you're not always going to take wins. You're going to take some losses in the game. Sometimes, some of your positions may go down in value. Some of the stocks may fall. But I don't really care too much about any of the short term noise, any of the short term price movements, because, like I told you, I invest for the long term, 5 to 10 years. So, a lot of the companies I invest in, I follow them and I look at their guidance and I look at their financials and I follow, any technological advancements that are going on. I pay attention to politics, geopolitics, because all of those things play a role. And when you look at, okay, why did we have a down week? Well, geopolitics. DeepSeek, I talked about it in the last video. DeepSeek, the Chinese tech startup, their open source large language model caused a lot of questions in regards to not just Nvidia. Nvidia was probably one of the ones that took the biggest hit, which is the biggest holding in this account. I think it's 15 shares of Nvidia in here. So it took a big hit due to DeepSeek. People started to question. By the end of the week, people started to, come to their senses. But those first couple of days, people started to question. A lot of our companies started to sell off, questioning, are we really going to need as much compute power as we thought? People are questioning the CapEx spend of some of these companies. You know, are we spending too much money on our large language models? Are we spending too much money on chips? Are some of these companies overvalued? A lot of valid questions, but when you look at the source of the fall in regards to DeepSeek, a lot of it was based around this number that was thrown around, this $5.6 million, a little under $6 million that it took, allegedly took the Chinese tech startup to create this open source large language model. But I pulled up the technical data in the last video and I showed you there are a lot of costs that was associated with creating that large language model that were left out. They left out a lot of the research and development into the algorithms and all of that kind of stuff. They focused on training hours and the cost that they spent after all of the back end work was done. And they left all of that out, and then it started to come out later in the week that they allegedly could have spent over $1 billion creating this open source large language model. So it was just a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, but that's why I say you have to pay attention to politics, geopolitics, things that are going on, legislation, FOMC, all of that kind of stuff, because a lot of those things can affect your investment in the short term, and you want to be in the know and know what's going on, so that you see your account take this dip. You know what's going on, you know why, and you're not one of those people that are selling, you know, up here, not selling up here, but you're not one of those people that are selling on these dips, or say it really dropped down here and you panic. So you're not selling on these dips. You're not selling on these dips because you know, when Nvidia dropped this week down to 118, we were buying. We were buying because we believe in Nvidia. We know the fundamentals of the company. We know all the things that they're into when it comes to quantum, when it comes to autonomous vehicles, when it comes to robotics, agentic AI, all of the things that they're into, data centers. We know all of these things. So when we hear things about DeepSeek or anything that's going on, we're not shaking out of our positions. And that's why it's important for you to do your research. But as you can see, the account did drop. We lost um a little under $400 this week. Nothing crazy. Ain't nothing. We'll get it back. We'll get it back for sure. But I am thinking about. I think the only thing I added to this account this week was I added some AMD and I added some SEHD. Now, the only thing in this account that did not get affected negatively, that didn't go down in the red at all in this account, was SEHD. And that's why I tell you guys, SEHD, long term, build it out brick by brick by brick by brick. And again, this is not investment advice. Anything I'm showing you in regards to this account are just things that I'm buying. Now, I am thinking about adding some XLU to this account, which is a utilities ETF, and I'm also thinking about adding some hymns. Some hymns. I may do another video explaining why, or I may talk about it next week. A little more about why I added those stocks to the portfolio if I do add them this week. But I'm thinking about adding those. I'm thinking about adding those, and of course, I'll be building out some of the other positions. The time of this recording, the only four things in this account are AMD, Nvidia, SCHD, and SoFi. And we'll just keep going. We'll keep going. We'll keep building it out. This is the first loss. This is the first down week we've had since this account was created. I'm not worried. Did we lose a little money? Yeah. We're not tripping off of it. We're gonna get it back. We're gonna get it back. But that's it for this video, man. We talked about some of the earnings that came out, a little bit about how I feel about them. There wasn't any groundbreaking news that came out this week. I think DeepSeek, kind of dominated the headlines. And then we had the aircraft accidents. Condolences to those people. And yeah, that's it, man. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're here at the end of this video, I love you dearly. I thank you greatly. Help me grow. Like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. I'm talking investing all day on there at Investing OTC. See you guys later. Peace.